If you literally had a terrific gay time 100 years ago, that would be quite different to having a terrific gay time today. So why is that? Why would that be? These are just some examples of words that have changed their meanings over time, and in this episode we are going to talk about why. We're going to be looking at a few different words that used to have one meaning and over time changed to a totally different meaning. We're going to be looking at why this might be, and I think this also might help clear things up for you. Why do we say terrific and terror? Why do we have these two words? One is bad, one is good. So we'll be talking a little bit about that today, and I think you'll find it interesting and useful. This is the Level Up English podcast, the best place to come to level up and improve your English one day at a time. My name is Michael, your host and your teacher for the day. Let's get started. Okay, let's get into the episode. I'm going to be doing my best to talk about the original meaning of each term, the modern meaning, and the reason for the change. So those three areas. I'll also be, as I often like to do, as I did last time as well, trying to give an example for each one, maybe some personal anecdote or story from myself, and also a question to get you thinking as well. If you can think about them or even speak them out loud, write them down, it is a great way to make these words stick in your memory more easily. So I had an awful time trying to plan this episode because it's quite hard to think of words that fit. Actually, I think the first one we could do is the word awful. Let's start with awful. So awful, I do think it's very useful when we look at the origin of words or the etymology. That's a very hard word, actually, ironically. But etymology is the origin or where a word comes from. We can break up a word and learn about the history of the word. Awful comes from the word awe, which in British English might be quite hard to hear, but this is the word A-W-E, awe. So you might hear it in like a sense of awe, or you are full of awe, right? I think it's very difficult in my accent because it sounds the same as O-R, right? This or this. It's kind of the same pronunciation, so it's quite difficult to talk about. That's why we often use it in a phrase, like a sense of awe, a feeling of awe. And awe, A-W-E, is I suppose it's an emotion, it's a feeling, or some people even say it's a sense. It's one of our hidden senses that other animals may not have. I mean, that could be debated whether other animals have it. But it's this feeling that makes the hairs on your skin, hairs on your body stand up when you see something wonderful or scary or huge or beautiful. It's that feeling that it makes you feel very small. So I think a very common example would be climbing to the top of a mountain and seeing a beautiful view of the entire country, maybe. And you feel a sense of awe, like, wow, nature is so beautiful. And you've got that shivering cold feeling down the back of your spine. That is what I mean by awe. So yeah, awful, literally full of awe, awful. This used to mean, kind of full of awe, inspiring a sense of wonder or fear in you. You feel awful, you feel like, wow, that's amazing, right? Very positive feeling. Well, awe is a tricky word because it can also be fear, right? If you just see a very scary predator like a tiger, you might feel awe. But I think it's mostly positive. It has a more positive feeling. But yeah, the modern meaning is very bad. Terrible. Totally opposite, right? So I had an awful day. I had a really, really, really bad day. Awful. Why did it change? I'm not going to focus too much on the changes today, partly because I'm not too familiar and I don't want to say anything wrong. But basically, with this word, over a lot of time, the sense of awe became more negative, right? So it became focused more on fear or discomfort. That was a more central theme with this word. So awful became more negative over time. And we will see a pattern with that today. We will see good words becoming bad and bad words becoming good. That tends to happen a lot. Another example, which is not on my list today, but is the word wicked. This is one that's changing right now. Wicked really means evil, like the Wicked Witch. But I think younger people have started using it to mean cool. Oh yeah, wicked. Yeah, I had a wicked time. Maybe it's a bit old-fashioned now. Maybe in the 90s people would say wicked, but these days people are saying, other words that I'm too old to understand. But anyway, my personal anecdote here, which means story, experience, is thinking back to when I was a kid. I was fascinated by space. Of course I still am, but as many of us do, as adults, we have distractions, which take us away from our fascinations. But yeah, when I was a kid and a teenager, I spent a long time looking at the stars, the night sky. I had a telescope. I had a big book about the universe that I'd read all the time. I was fascinated by space. And I often would go camping when I was younger, and I'd poke my head out of the door of the tent, and my body would be all warm and cozy in the sleeping bag, and I would be watching the night sky with awe, with a sense of awe. I think that's the perfect way to use that word, A-W-E. You're watching the universe, you're seeing the stars, you'd see satellites, maybe not so far away, but also shooting stars and all these kind of things. And I would feel a sense of awe. I feel very small. Wow, the universe is so big. There's so much we don't know. And it's kind of a good feeling, but it's a mixture. It's like a very complex feeling. That's this feeling of awe, right? And I suppose to match it with the modern meaning, with this word awful, I could say maybe I would, it would start raining and I would feel awful. That's not a real example. I can't think of a time when that happened, but I want to watch the clouds and then poke my head out and I get rained on. Very cold, wet rain, and I feel awful. Yeah, that could happen, right? It could happen. So here's a question for you. Can you think of a time when you were expecting something to be awful, but it turned out to be amazing? You were expecting something to be really bad, but actually it was quite good. Think of anything that matches that? Okay, this next one is quite interesting, and I think it might be new information for many of you. And this is the word gay, G-A-Y. This has gone through a big change in the last century or less. I don't actually know the timeline, but definitely in the last 100 years, this shifted quite a lot. And I'll go for the modern meaning. You probably know that the word gay today is a word for homosexual people, homosexual relationships, right? So if you're gay, you're attracted to people from the same sex. And that's the modern usage of it. And I find it very interesting because the original usage was happy. Gay used to mean happy or carefree or something like that. So if you read a very old English book, it might say, oh, we had a gay old time. We had such a gay time. And that meant we had a happy time. We had a really fun, happy time. So that shifted over the 20th century because of the LGBT movement, and they adopted this word gay. I suppose because it was a happy, positive word that became associated with the LGBT movement, and as that became more accepted and spoken about in the world culture, I guess, the old meaning kind of shifted out of existence, right? But I do find it quite funny because people like my grandma and my grandparents' generation, they might still use this word in the old sense out of habit. So, oh yeah, we had a really gay time. And it always takes me aback. I'm surprised. Like, wait, what? What do you mean? But of course, they're meaning the word happy. It takes a long time to get used to changes in meanings when the word meaning changes quite quickly. That's an interesting one. I don't know if you will ever come across the old meaning in your English experience, but it is interesting to see how that one has changed. For my personal anecdote with this example, I'm going to use gay in the meaning of happy. I want to talk about the original meaning of being really happy and carefree, amazing feeling, and I'm going to ask you and myself, when was a time when you felt really carefree? In fact, can you share a time in your life when you felt the most carefree you have ever felt? For me, the answer is very obvious. I mean, there's one that stands out in my mind. And this was a few years ago where I moved out of one of my flats and I started house sitting. If you don't know, house sitting is when you stay in people's houses to look after their house and their animals while they're on holiday. So I think I was looking after their cats. These people went on holiday. I was looking after their cats. And in exchange for helping them, I could live in their house for free, basically. So I moved out of my own flat. I had no possessions. I had the backpack on my back, the clothes I was wearing, and nothing else. And I was teaching on my laptop at that time. I had, probably about like 60 possessions in the whole world. I had no debt. I had no house, no rent, no bills. All I had to pay for was food and traveling around. I mean, for some people, that's quite a scary moment, nothing to do. For me, I felt so free. I never felt that carefree in my life. I felt like I could go anywhere. I could do anything I want to. I never felt that freedom before in my life. And I don't know if I'll get that feeling back again because, of course, now I have a very different life than I did then. And it would be much harder to go back to that state without sacrificing a lot of other things. But it will always be a good memory, that carefree moment in my life. What is your example? Okay, my next example is the word literally. And this is a good one to share because it's a change that is happening right now. We are in the process of seeing this word change. And of course, as with any linguistic change, a lot of people hate it. I try to stay out of it, but a lot of people don't like it. And this is the original meaning of the word literally, which is still, the dictionary meaning today. It's still the official meaning, is something happening exactly according to what you're saying. So literally, it was minus 10 degrees Celsius, literally. Or I was so cold that literally my tears were freezing. So that means exactly what I said is true. It was so cold that I had ice on my face from my tears. Right, that's literally true. And the opposite of literally is figuratively, which is kind of like a metaphor. It's an example. You're not actually using a real example. It's figurative, right? But more and more common these days, people use literally because they want to emphasize what they're saying. They want to add emphasis, but it's actually the opposite. It's not literal at all. They are given an example that is totally figurative. So, this is a common example which, I think it's not really nice to talk about the word starving. I feel that when there are people starving in the world and, maybe you missed one meal, big deal. But yeah, people do use it this way. I was literally starving. I was literally so starving. Maybe by the tone of their voice, you can tell that they are exaggerating. But yeah, basically, starving, I mean, that's already exaggerating because they're not starving. They're just a bit hungry. But yeah, I was starving. I was really hungry. If you say I was literally starving, it makes it sound like even more emphasized. I was actually really 100% starving, even though you weren't starving. Right, so that's funny. I suppose that the modern meaning is changing a little bit. It's in the process of changing. So these days you will hear both examples. Right, literally, this thing happened. Or yeah, literally I was starving, which isn't true. So you will see both, and maybe next time you see the word literally used, have a think about what meaning they are doing. Are they using the original meaning, or are they using the new kind of ironic, emphasized, figurative meaning? Have a think about it. For my next word, I want to talk about egregious. To be honest, I think that's the first time I've ever said that word out loud in my whole life. I don't know why. It's a fairly common word. It's not a word that's been part of my personal vocabulary. But it's a strangely spelled word, but this is egregious. Egregious. So it's an adjective. And the original meaning of this word was to be very, very good. Standing out in a positive way. Egregious. And the modern meaning, as you'll see this pattern is repeating, the modern meaning is very, very bad. Outstandingly wrong. So again, it's totally changed to a good thing, from a good thing to a bad thing. This is a common pattern. I think why this changed is because this feeling of standing out, being different from the rest, changed from being a good distinction to bad attention. You don't want to stand out. So it's egregious. It's really bad. I don't like it. So one example of egregious behavior that I often see, which is shockingly bad, egregious, is it seems to be very common in Asia. So I don't know if it's a cultural thing. Maybe I need to open my mind a bit more. But I see a lot of people cutting their fingernails in public places. To me, where I was brought up, it's a private bathroom thing. You cut your fingernails or any grooming, shaving, any grooming, you do it in private. You don't do it in public. So, cutting nails, I find it a little bit weird. It's a bit disgusting to me. But that's not my example. My example is I saw a guy in the airport, maybe last year, and he was cutting his nails with nail clippers while waiting in the airport, and his nails were dropping onto the floor. And I thought this was egregious behavior. I thought it was very rude. First of all, this is just personal feeling. I find it a bit disgusting. I don't know about you. But I think the main egregious part here is just a lack of respect for the cleaners. Okay, he's leaving his body parts, I don't know what you would call it, coming from his body, right? Like literally. So I used it literally. I used it in the original meaning here. That was a total accident. But yeah, literally, it is coming from his body. That's the original meaning. But he's leaving it. Other people have to enjoy that space and other people have to deal with it. And the cleaners have to clean it up. So I just think that's egregious. I don't think it's very good behavior. Let me know what your opinion is on that, if you agree or disagree. But yeah, maybe you could also think about what is some egregious behavior that you have seen. What is some behavior in public that you have seen that you think is shockingly bad? Let me know. Okay, the next one, I like this one as well. This is the word fathom. Fathom. Try to pronounce that as well as I can. But yeah, this is the word Fathom. Fathom. And it's a verb. And it used to mean, the original meaning was to encircle something with your arms, like to embrace something. It's also a way we measure depth in the ocean, like 2 fathoms. It's like a unit of measurement. But yeah, it used to be kind of encircling with your arms, like, yeah, embracing, I suppose. And the modern meaning is to understand something, to fully understand something. So this physical way of measuring something, physical action, became metaphorical over time. A little bit like the word to grasp. You might know the verb grasp literally means to hold in your hand. You're grasping something with your hand. But also, metaphorically, you're grasping it. It's like your mind is doing that same action to understand something. It's bringing something inside your brain. And it's very similar here to fathom. You are encircling an object of understanding into your mind, right? Very, very common word, actually. You may not have heard it, I'm not sure, but it's actually a good word to use in daily life. And it's very common when something is so unbelievable that you just can't understand why this is happening. So I have an example. This is another opinion I have. Again, I don't want to get cancelled. This is just an opinion. There is no judgment behind it. I know everyone's different, but I can't fathom how some people can travel across the world or overseas on a plane to sit by a swimming pool for a week and then go home. I can't fathom how people can enjoy that. Honestly, my friends are similar to this. They like to do that. They'll go to Spain or Greece and sit by the pool. And again, very, very clear. There's no judgment here. I understand why, I suppose. UK is cold and wet. You want to relax where it's hot and comfortable. That makes sense to me. But personally, I get so bored. I tried it with my friends before, and I get really, like energetic. I need to move. Maybe that's a problem with myself. Maybe they are the right ones and I'm the wrong one. Who knows? But yeah, I can't fathom how people can enjoy that. For me, it seems like a waste of a trip. I want to explore, go hiking, or see some temple or something like that. I want to do something a bit more. What's the word? A bit more, with a bit more movement. Maybe, I don't know. But yeah, let me know what you think, and also let me know if you have another example. What is something in life or maybe your work that you cannot fathom? Some strange behavior, for example. Yeah, I think this word is often used in a negative way. Like, I can fathom this. Not so common to say you can fathom something, but I can't fathom this is very common. That's a good phrase to remember. Okay, I think we will do 2 more here. We'll do 2 more. I think that should be good timing by the time we're done. The next one is the word fond. Fond. This is an adjective, to be fond of something. And this is actually one that I didn't know about before my research. The original meaning of fond was foolish or naive. So again, a negative meaning. But yeah, the reason I didn't know this one is because it's a very old change. The word fond, meaning foolish or simple, comes from Middle English. And this change to the word we have today of being fond of something started around the 1500s. It's like 500 years ago. So it's a very old word. And this change is a little bit before my time. It's a little bit before I was around. So yeah, the current meaning, you might know, is kind of loving or affectionate. You might have a fond memory, for example, which is like a nice, affectionate, happy memory. If you're fond of something, you kind of like something in a nice way, So again, it's negative changed to positive. And if I try my best to think of a fond childhood memory, I can think back to when I used to play with my friends in the field. In the countryside, there would be like fields with very long grass, which would be taller than we were as children, and we would play hide and seek in the grass. Good thing I didn't have hay fever or allergies, because that would have been horrible, but I really enjoyed it. Just playing in nature, hide and seek, it's so much fun. Like, even today, I think that would be fun. Even as an adult, it would be so much fun. But yeah, as a kid, nothing is better than a good game of hide and seek. So that's a very fond childhood memory that I have that popped into my mind. And yeah, maybe you can think of your own fond childhood memory. But maybe a more interesting question is, what is something that you are quite fond of that other people might find strange? You're fond of it, but other people might find it strange. It might be like a TV show that you like, a food that you like, something that you like that others don't. Maybe think about what that could be for you. Okay, and the final one for today is terrific. Terrific. This is another good one, a little bit like wicked, like we mentioned before. And it's very good to know this one, because you might notice it also contains the word terror, terrible. These are all connected, right? Terror and terrible, these are, of course, negative words. It's a little bit like horror and horrible, both negative words. But yeah, terrific is actually a good thing now. Unlike horrific, which is a bad thing. So that's interesting, because that one hasn't changed. Horrific, horror, horrible, Those are all negative, but the word terrific for some reason has changed. So yeah, the original meaning, of course, is causing terror or frightening, like a terrific sound that caused terror in people. But over time, the meaning changed, and now, you might know, it means very, very good, amazing. There are so many words in English that mean amazing, wonderful, terrific. So maybe we didn't need another one, but now we have one. And the reason why so many of these words change is because when we're describing a strong emotion, they often flip from fear to admiration or love or excitement when we're using informal speech, right? And you can imagine this like a terrific, or let's say horrific, because that is still negative. There was a horrific scream I heard, which means a terrifying, scary scream, horrific scream. So that's negative, but you could imagine if you had a really fun time, you could say it was horrifically fun. Like it was so fun, it was like scary. It was so scary because we had so much fun. Does that make sense? Like it kind of, again, it's kind of emphasis. You're emphasizing it was so good, so you're emphasizing with a negative word. It's a little bit hard for me to describe, but hopefully you're understanding the idea behind it anyway. So that's why these words often change, and terrific now is really only used in a positive way, right? So what's interesting here is we can use the word terrifying and terrific to talk about opposite things. So a moment that was terrifying for me was maybe going on the London Eye. That's a lie. I've been on the London Eye twice. So this is perfect. The first time on the London Eye, I was about 10 years old, and I remember this very clearly because it was a terrifying, horrific memory for me. I was crying so much. I was really terrified of going up so high, and I was screaming and crying the whole way, and my parents forced me to go inside. I was so angry with them. I don't know if that was the right choice. Maybe it was good for me to overcome my fears. I'm not sure. But yeah, I was terrified. I really didn't want to do it. And I remember even now, I remember crying and my parents being embarrassed. But yeah, it was terrifying the first time. And the second time, I thought it was terrific. The second time I was maybe, 16, 17, a little bit older, much braver, of course. And I thought it was terrific. So that was a memory that was terrifying at first, that became terrific later on. And maybe you can think of your own example. Is there anything in your life that started to be terrifying, scary, but then ended up being terrific, amazing? I'm sure you could think of a few examples. Stepping outside of your comfort zone to try something new, perhaps. But okay, I think we'll leave it here. That was a good list. Just to recap, we had awful, gay, literally, egregious, fathom, fond, terrific. Some great words there. Hopefully you learned something new. And as always, I will put some bonus materials up on the website for members to follow along with if you need a bit more. I don't really have any more updates from me today. As I said in the episode 2 weeks ago, I've been working very hard on level 3 members, the new website and the rebrand. That's all going well. So if you want to see more of that, head over to the website. You can even go to this episode, which is levelupenglish.school/podcast343. Or just go to the homepage and levelupenglish.school. It will show you the recent episodes on the homepage. And yeah, if you don't mind, have an explore of the website. Go to each page, see what you think, and hopefully you like it. If you have any feedback for me, let me know. I can make some improvements. But yeah, let me know what you think of my new website. Hope you like it. Again, no reviews today, so if you want to leave a review on Apple Podcast, that would be appreciated. But I'm going to read a few comments on Spotify. I have quite a lot, actually, because I haven't checked them in a while. So I'm going to read one from 332, which is from Lena. And Lena said, amazing, amazing. I really enjoyed listening to this episode. I've been listening to you since episode 191. Keep going, super funny episodes. I'm also struggling with Mondays, and I was laughing while I heard you talking about it. You made my Monday funny. Thank you. Thank you so much, Lena. I'm really happy that you've been listening for so long and that you are still with us today, hopefully. So that hopefully means that you will hear me read out your comment as well. So that's very nice. I like that one. We also had one from... Let's read this one from Sufyan from 333. I'm really amazed. I love you. I started listening to the first 10 episodes. I am Sufyan from Sudan. I started learning with you. Well, thank you, Sufyan, all the way from Sudan. That is great to hear. I'm glad you are enjoying the podcast. So thank you very much. I spoke about icks on episode 335, and I thought it could be fun to review a couple comments from here. We had a few nice ones, which I will respond to with a heart emoji. Cristobal said, nice content. I'm from Chile, and my English level is B1. Your accent and the way you speak is very instructive. So that was nice. And 2 people shared their icks with us. Izana said, my personal ick is wearing socks with sandals. That's a very good ick, very common. And Diana said, having dirty nails is my ick. That is another really fantastic ick. Someone's dirty nails, yeah. For me, dirtiness is not a big problem, but long nails is an ick. I'm sorry, I know a lot of you may have long nails, but if I see someone with long nails, I just imagine them breaking, and it makes me feel very uncomfortable. So long nails is my ick. But okay, let's leave it there. I don't want your ick to be me talking too long. So I will end with a quote, and this is from Richard Baker, an astronaut, who said, for most people, we often marvel at the beauty of a sunrise or the magnificence of a full moon. But it is impossible to fathom the magnitude of the universe that surrounds us. That's good. So marvel is a little bit like awe, like you're looking at something with awe, to marvel. And the magnitude is just the amazingness, let's say that. So it's impossible to fathom the magnitude of the universe. Even if you go into space, or you spend your whole life looking into space through a telescope, it's so big that you can never get your mind around the scale and the beauty of the universe. I love that quote. Good example of the word fathom. But okay, well, I think we'll end it here. Thank you so much for watching on YouTube or listening on any app you are on. Really appreciate it. It means a lot to me, and I hope you continue to stick with me. So thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye. You have been listening to the Level Up English podcast. If you would like to leave a question to be answered on a future episode, then please go to levelupenglish.school/podcast. That's levelupenglish.school/podcast. And I'll answer your question on a future episode. Thanks for listening.